quiet number 5. Take you a quick swig here. Brother Josh from up in Columbia, Missouri. My brother sent me Silencer Smooth Coffee. Says this light roast is perfect. Just perfect for the quiet professional. I don't know that I'm either of those things, but here we go. It's a mighty fine blend. Thank you very much. And our question today comes from Mr. Blevins Goat, who has commented before, and he said, can you talk about doing some pentatonic double stops and chords that come from that? Absolutely. In fact, that's kind of what I was just doing. So what you got there, that was B minor pentatonic. You know that, right? If not, quick recap. B minor pentatonic starts on the 7th fret and goes 7, 10 on the low E, then 7, 9 on the A, and does that all the way through the G string. So 7, 9, 7, 9, 7, 9. And then when you get to the B, 7, 10, 7, 10. And I tend to use my pinky, I had to think about it here, only on this spot. Everything else is, you know, if I'm not thinking about it, I'm just playing it. Everything else is index, ring finger. In fact, Ted Green, if you don't know who that is, open up a new YouTube window, type in Ted Green with the E at the end. Phenomenal guitar player, harmonic genius, and amazing teacher. He actually pointed out that he noticed that Clapton and Wes Montgomery and Van Halen kind of did that thing. So, you know, I think it's okay for us to do that, right? Moving on. Double stops out of the pentatonic scale. We're playing 2 notes at once, so, right? And all that is, starting from the bottom here, 7 and 7, right? And then 10 on the low E, and then 9 on the A, kind of like a G chord. Little Cage coming back to haunt us, look at that. And then 7 and 7 on the A and D, 9 and 9, 7 and 7 on the D and G, 9 and 9, 7 and 7 on the G and B, and then, speaking of Cage, look at that. That kind of looks like a D shape, right? So, and then 7 and 7 again, and then 10 and 10. Right? And Hendrix would do like all the, you know, too much. Little yellow lead better, right? Well, if you're playing in a power trio, I do have a tuner here, or you're playing with, you know, some other, you know, keyboard player or guitar player, a lot of times those little pentatonic double stops are more than just a little solo-y activity. They're fantastic for playing small chords. Small chords. That's kind of where it's at. And I'll tell you why. Because it gets out of the way of a lot of things, right? A lot of times, as guitar players, I've done this many times, we make the mistake of trying to give too much all the time. Meaning, like, you know, we're playing, right? And we're playing like the full voicing of the chord. Sometimes that's absolutely not only appropriate, but what's called for. But a lot of times, especially when we're protecting the groove, you don't need to play as much information because the beat in of itself from the drums and the bass player's bass groove, we need to let that breathe. And sometimes just playing them, just a simple little double stop groove like that, not only does that allow for breathing room, but it helps whoever is singing or the other soloist really have some room to stretch and add their own color so that we're not just absolutely throwing everything out there. Does that make sense? And when it comes to like using the cooking analogy, the pentatonic scale, I mean, you can go keto on the pentatonic scale and just consume that. It is such a deep wellspring of sustenance and dietary musical information. You can't go wrong spending a bunch of time getting the pentatonic really good in your hands, right? I'm still working on it myself. I'm still on the path. But anyway, that little thing I just did, I want to show that to you. So what I'm doing here is I'm going from 7 and 7 on the D and G to 9 and 9 on the D and G. Right? And then now take your middle finger and put the C in the bass. And then just move this whole thing down to the 3rd fret for G. So what's happening there? Well, what's happening there is I'm playing A and D to B and E. So it's almost like I'm kind of hinting at the Lydian chord that we talked about in our last lesson, which is this, 5 over the 4 chord if we're in the key of G, right? This D over C to C major 7, right? And then I'm doing the same thing, this G, because I'm playing an E and an A to a F sharp and a B. Well, why does that work? Well, for a couple of reasons. Number one, do you remember when we talked about how in any key, you've got 2 groups of chords. You've got your tension chords and your release chords, right? So the tension chords are 2, 4, 5, and 7. And then the release chords are 1, 3, and 6. And you kind of already know this because the relative major, relative minor thing, right? If I'm playing B minor pentatonic, that is also D major, right? You know that. But did you also know that you can use that over G major and it sounds awesome, right? Well, if you didn't, here's why. Take a G. Normally you're going to play E minor pentatonic, right? Right? And you've got, if I'm descending, I've got G, E, D, B, A, right? There's only one note difference between that and B minor pentatonic. Because over the G, I'm going to do it up here, I've got D, B, A, F sharp, and then E. And that F sharp, there is so much cool stuff you can do. The best part about the pentatonic thing is that your hands start to get things they like to do, right? Kind of, right? But your hand, what'll happen is that if you can do it up here, you can do it down here, right? And what happens is, you're playing a G ballad. Right? E minor pentatonic. Or that F sharp, I promise you, when you hit that F sharp, especially if it's over the C. Remember, we just talked about this Lydian thing. It's going to be so pretty and so cool. Don't be afraid of it. Try that. Just try that much right there. Stop this thing. Go find you a YouTube backing track that's like a G ballad or, it's out there, I promise. Just go find something in the key of G and then work B minor pentatonic over it. It's awesome. Now that you're back after having paused that, I also want you to consider there's some real tiny, small chords that are made. So if you get a little loop going, right, and get you some double stops going in that loop, there's some really, really cool, really tasty little appetizers, little Spanish tapas of tonal information that you can do with just 2 notes out of the B minor pentatonic scale over the key of G, right? Doesn't stop there. It's over all of it. Not only that, but if it sounds great over G, then B minor, all that stuff sounds obviously great over B minor too, right? So try that. Test me. Work it out. Listen to it. Play it. Get you a buddy. Get a G chord going and a C chord going and work that B minor pentatonic over and protect the groove and watch what happens. You get some really cool flavors. It only works if you're listening. And hopefully we're always listening, right? Because you'll find these little nuggets of, ooh, there's just a little delicious piece of tension there. And I promise you, it's a really, really cool thing. So try that out. I love when you ask a question and I can make an effort at answering. And also, I just kind of feel like it helps bring us together, which is what all this thing is about. Thank you for your comments. Thank you for your questions. We'll see you next week for another Chords and Coffee.